We are back with the college football playoff predictions, initial reactions to the bracket now that we have the official bracket from the committee. I think they largely did a good job. My only concern is taking BYU out, leaving Alabama in. Both of those teams got blown out in their conference championship games, and I have no problem with leaving Alabama in. I don't like punishing a team for playing that extra game that, teams like Miami and Texas Tech, or excuse me, teams like Miami and A&M and Ole Miss didn't play in. So I have no problem leaving a team like Bama in, but I think if you're going to leave them in, you have to leave BYU in, who, if BYU didn't play in the Big 12 title game, I have to imagine they're playing in the college football playoffs and they're getting left out because they laid an egg um, on Saturday. So that's kind of my biggest gripe is just leaving one team that got blown out in and leaving the other one out. You can make the argument that BYU's not a top 12 team, that they would lose against like any of these teams like A&M and Oklahoma and any of these teams that are hosting first round games. And I have no problem with that, but I think it's just kind of a dangerous precedent to set that the committee can and will punish you for losing a conference title game. So we'll move on to the actual predictions this time. We're going to start with JMU and Oregon. I think Oregon is just going to be too much for JMU. Um, Dante Moore and the Oregon offense have been solid as of lately. They did have some midseason struggles. They lost to Indiana in what was at the time an upset. Then they had their struggles against teams like Wisconsin and Iowa, kind of struggling with like the middle to the lower end of the Big Ten. But lately they've kind of locked it back in. They blew out a Washington team that I was pretty high on in the Big Ten and in rivalry week. So I don't think they're gonna have any problem getting past James Madison here. Alabama, Oklahoma, kind of a game between two teams that I'm not as high on, and I'm kind of back and forth about this one. I like the Alabama side of it because I think that their offense has been more consistent. I think Ty Simpson and company have just been a better unit than John Mateer and that Oklahoma team that's been struggling to score points since like September. Defensively, I like Oklahoma better than Alabama, who's struggled against teams like Georgia, who they just got blown out by in their title game, compared to this Oklahoma defense that's been one of the better units in the SEC. Um, these two teams both played. They played each other earlier in the season. Oklahoma ended up winning that game in Tuscaloosa, and now you've got the rematch at home for the Sooners. I can't take Alabama in this game. I'm not high on Oklahoma. I don't think they're going to go past the quarters if they even get there. But I'm just not comfortable picking an Alabama team that has looked spotty going on the road against a team that already beat them this year. Next up, Tulane Ole Miss. Matchup we kind of already saw this season. Tulane played Ole Miss. I believe it was in Mississippi, and they got blown out. I do think between Tulane and JMU that they have the better odds to pull up the upset. But I'm not going to take it. I'm a little wary as far as Ole Miss goes for how mentally committed they're going to be going forwards, just because of the coaching drama around Lane Kiffin leaving, kind of going with a new staff going forward into a playoff game. I think that could have a mental effect on a lot of the players. But Trinidad Chambliss has been playing a good football as of late, and that defense should just be able to make enough plays to stop this Tulane offense that has been good, but it's kind of been spotty. They did need like all five of those takeaways against North Texas. And they kind of only squeaked past them by 10, 13 points. So I think that Ole Miss should take this one easily, but I would keep an eye on Tulane. Their ability to create takeaways in bunches has propelled them to a lot of wins this year. And if they can do that against a potentially distracted Rebels team, maybe keep an eye out for the upset. Miami A&M, probably the game that I'm going back and forth on the most. I think right now I'll take Texas A&M. Um, I think I just trust their offense more. Carson Beck has been inconsistent in some of their bigger games they've played. You look at those conference losses they had to Louisville and SMU, where he turned the ball over multiple times. This is the biggest game of the season. They're going into College Station. The stadium is going to be roaring, and I worry about how Carson Beck would perform in an atmosphere like that compared to a Texas A&M offense that's been more consistent throughout the season. They did kind of lay an egg against Texas during rivalry week, so that's kind of a concern that they lost pretty badly to a team that got left out of the playoffs, for better or for worse. Um, so yeah, I'm taking Texas A&M over Miami, but I would not be at all surprised if Miami pulls off the upset and comes out with a win. Moving on to the quarters, I'm going to take Oregon over Texas Tech. Not a shot at Texas Tech. They've had a great season. They dominated largely the Big 12 outside of Arizona State. That defense has been outstanding. Um, kind of been the reason they got through the Big 12 so easily. They dominated BYU in both of those games that they played, winning by 20 points in the regular season. They won by 23, I believe it was, during the Big 12 title game. They absolutely deserve a first round bye. I think they're absolutely worthy of a top four seed. But I think this Oregon offense is just more consistent and is just a unit that I have more faith in to get more points on the board to get this win. I can be swayed. I would not be surprised at all if this was to happen and Texas Tech was to move on. But I like Oregon just slightly more. I don't know. I don't care who it is that would get put against Indiana here. It could be anybody. I'm not taking Indiana to lose their first playoff game after essentially treating the Big Ten championship like a playoff game where they beat Ohio State in what is, in my opinion, one of the biggest upsets of the last several years, just because everyone was talking down on Indiana, saying, um, they haven't played anybody. Wait till Ohio State comes to town. They'll lose by 30. They'll lose by three scores. Ohio State by 20. All that stuff that everyone's saying. And then Indiana just shut up all the doubters. They shut everybody up. Signetti and company, the defensive game plan for Ohio State, holding them to 10 points. He did get lucky with the missed field goal at the end of the fourth quarter there, which would have tied the game. But Indiana absolutely deserves the number one seed. I think they are the best team in the country right now. And I think they will easily get past an Oklahoma team that offensively has been struggling anyway. And going up against this tough Hoosier defense, I think they're going to struggle to put points up on the board. I'm going to take Georgia to beat Ole Miss. I'm not too high on this Rebels team. I think they had a solid regular season. They faced Georgia in the regular season. They lost that game. They're playing once again. I don't think Kirby Smart's going to lose to a team that he already beat once this year. And kind of like I already mentioned, I think Ole Miss is not going to be wholeheartedly there dealing with the coaching change and all that drama going forward. And I think Georgia is absolutely, with the extra week of rest and game planning, going to take advantage of that. A&M Ohio State, I'm taking the angry Buckeyes team to get by Texas A&M. I think might be where we see some of the Marcel Reed inconsistencies going up against, in my opinion, the best defense in the nation. This is going to be an angry Buckeyes team who's going to have a month to deal with that loss in the title game to Indiana. I think they're going to have a game plan for whoever they go up against, and I think that they'll run through A&M. Semifinals, I'm not picking Oregon to beat Indiana. I don't think that Signetti, kind of similarly to what I just said for Georgia against Ole Miss. I cannot imagine Signetti losing to a team that he already beat by double digits on the road. I think they're gonna cruise past Oregon. I could see Oregon. I could see Dan Lanning and company having a solid game plan and keeping it close with the Hoosiers. But that defense has just been too dominant. I think that offense is going to be doing just enough, like it's been doing in all of their close games. I'm taking Indiana to get past Oregon. Georgia, Ohio State. Um, in my opinion, I think this is the best game so far. You're getting Kirby Smart, in my opinion, the best coach in the nation, with one of the best defenses, one of the best quarterbacks going up against Ohio State. That kind of like I talked about in last week's video, this is like an NFL team playing in the Big Ten, and they're going to be an angry NFL team playing a Georgia team that I just don't think has the talent. We've talked about how Ohio State has like 5 first round draft picks on their defense, how they have 3 of the best receivers in the nation, how they have a Heisman finalist at QB. They got a young, the reincarnation of Bo Jackson running the ball. This is just such a stacked team and an angry team that I think they're going to run through the first couple of games. Kind of like what I said with Indiana, I think they're going to run through anybody they go against. And then they kind of hit a brick wall in the national championship. You get Indiana, Ohio State. This would be absolutely electric. Getting the rematch of the Big Ten championship. Honestly, I think I'm going to take Ohio State. And this is not a shot at Indiana. It's been a magical season. I think beating Ohio State in the biggest game in program history was outstanding. But I think this Ohio State team is too talented. They're going to be furious. They're going to be looking for revenge. I think they're I think Ryan Day and company is going to have a game plan. They're going to capitalize on their mistakes. And then I think maybe if they get a fourth down again where a field goal ties the game, I think maybe they leave that offense out there. Let a guy like Jeremiah Smith go make a play. But again, Indiana already beat this team. Like I said with Oregon, taking a team that Indiana already beat over them, it feels irresponsible. But this Ohio State team is too good, man. It's just, I think it's just impossible to take them to lose with how well they've played, how talented their roster is, and how motivated they're going to be to beat the team that kept them from the 1 seed. I'm taking Ohio State to win the national championship over Indiana. Score prediction, I think it would be similarly low scoring. I think Ohio State would score a few more points. I think I would lean about Ohio State 17, Indiana 13. I think I would take a very similar score. I think Ohio State scores another touchdown. I think Ohio State in the red zone in that game, they turned it over on downs. They missed the field goal. They just made too many mistakes in the red zone. In what was only a 3 point loss, you limit those mistakes and you probably win that game. I know Indiana missed a field goal too, but if they just get 2 field goals on those 2 drives instead of coming away with nothing, you got a 16-13 game. And obviously, like, you can't just say, like, well, if this happens and if this happens, but I don't think Ohio State's going to make the same mistakes again in a bigger game against the same team. I think this team's too talented. I think I like this coaching staff just too much. And I think I'm taking Ohio State to beat Indiana. But that's my picks. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know who's going to win the national championship. Let me know what you guys thought of the committee's decision to leave Notre Dame out, to leave BYU out, leave Duke out. Maybe you're an ACC homer. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.